Do we want to talk shit about the... wait. This gets edited, right?
Are you talking about the embargo stuff? The embargo stuff?
Yeah.
Let's just talk shit about the embargo stuff because I wanted to do that anyway. We can make a short out of it.
Yeah.
What up, Passionate DJ Nation? It is your boy Mo Dingo. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about a little bit of a sensitive subject. If you follow us on social media, you'll see that a few weeks ago, the embargo was broken on some equipment that was going to be released. Now, what do I mean by embargo? So normally, folks like us who do reviews on equipment and hardware, we're given that hardware prior to its release date, so that way we can test it out, do a gear review, put together content, so that way you guys have an idea what our first impressions are of that equipment. Well, a few weeks ago, that embargo was broken by some people within our community. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, when our partner, the DJ Hookup, sends us all this equipment, we're under strict guidelines and rules, and even sign legal documents saying that we won't speak about this equipment or show it to anybody until a specific date. That way it maintains the integrity of the release date by the vendor, because their marketing team is working behind the scenes to make sure that this product gets released with the proper still photographs and the proper text that'll go in all these write-ups, and just general information that the manufacturer wants everyone to know about their gear. Well, unfortunately, some people dropped all that information about this new piece of hardware several days before it was scheduled to be released to the public at large. Well, here at the Passionate DJ, we truly do respect and honor those opportunities that we're given to present you with all this new content on all this new gear. And for us to violate any embargoes or release date requirements, that's just something we wouldn't do. However, some people felt it necessary to break this information. In this episode, Tony, David, Tripp, and I talk about our feelings about the embargo being broken and what it means to us as content creators. For those of you watching on our YouTube channel, please make sure and subscribe and hit that bell so that way you get notifications whenever we drop new content. On with the show.
So this week, there was some hardware announced that was scheduled to be announced on a certain day, and a lot of the information was leaked to the public.
Leaked, yes.
That's a silly word for it.
Yeah.
It is a silly word because it wasn't like, when you think of a leak, it's like, oh, it like appears on like random like little YouTube channels or social media channels or whatever.
Or someone inadvertently got CC'd on an email.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
This was like, it's literally, so Serato's blog is called The Drop. And it was on Serato's blog, which is like, okay, this is marketing. This is not
an accident. Yeah.
Right. Now, there were other channels and stuff. I don't want to call anybody out because I honestly don't know.
I'll do it. It was... No, just
I don't know who was first or whatever and all that, but...
You know who you are.
You know who you are. No, I think it's the people to be a little upset at is probably like the people in charge of marketing for like in music and brands like that who plan this kind of thing out. And the reason it's upsetting to somebody like me is like, on one hand, I get it. It's like, okay, why does a big brand care about a little content creator with 6,000 subscribers on YouTube kind of thing? But on the other hand, it's like, well, when you have this kind of gatekeeping, it defeats the entire purpose of the embargo, where all this stuff gets released, all at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so what happens to, whether you're on the list or not, if there's a different embargo for this company versus this
company A versus company B.
Yeah, then
that's an unfair advantage.
Not only that, I mean, it's so in the context of YouTube, which is what I care about, it's brutal. It's brutally different. If something gets leaked and we don't post anything about it for a week, the YouTube spike is like, and then it's,
right.
And if you miss that bump, then it's just not going to be the same. Now, that doesn't mean it's not worth making the video. It depends on what it is, and, but if you miss out on that, especially for a hardware launch from a big company, you just will never get the same views on that video.
Right.
And that squashes your views, your ad revenue, and the subscribers you get, and and it kind of like ruins the time that you put into it. And so, like, as somebody in my position, I go, well, then fucking embargo, because now I'm at a disadvantage for trying to play nice,
Right.
Or follow the rules.
and follow
at
the
least.
rules.
Well, but
So, now I'm not saying I'm doing that. I'm just saying that's my attitude right now. I'm upset about it because it's like, because I'm following the rules, I'm getting penalized, and it seems to be sanctioned, which pisses me off.
that's what I was gonna say. Is that, I mean, it almost feels like there's like either a pay to play or there's some sort of preferential treatment in there somewhere, and for some of those other channels, do they even need to have that?
Right.
If you already if you're already a verified, YouTuber or whatever, and you have 100,000 followers, do you need to squeeze people like us out?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And there have been other outlets that have mentioned this, and I've been kind of looking around, and one of the people who's talking about it is Mark. Mark, I'll say, who used to own an outlet like this, more popular, and so he had reviewed gear for years and years and years, and had an exchange on LinkedIn with the
Of all places, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
the director,
Which I thought was interesting.
I don't know if it was the director of marketing or the CEO or somebody at InMusic, and was like, why are you hyping this shit up like it's doing anything revolutionary anyway? Like,
Right.
what's up with it? Like, just release it to everybody and stop acting like it's a top secret crazy thing, because
Right.
none of this stuff is changing the game, and
Right.
so there's this whole stink now about it.
Well, but that's an excellent point. I mean, it's not as if any of the stuff that's coming out is doing anything fundamentally different. Yeah, there's incremental improvements, and there are smaller additions to features and functionality. But at the end of the day, you're still mixing music. There's still jog wheels. There's still faders. There's still knobs. All of that kind of stuff. Like, so what is the purpose behind all of that hype? Because if you're Denon, if you're Pioneer, if you're whoever, if you're one of the major brands, everything you drop is going to get some level of hype to it when you drop it. And I don't know, I guess I don't follow enough of the hardware releases to know is there any other like teasers along the way that gets people all hyped up for the big drop?
Well, Rain's definitely been doing that.
Have they?
Yeah.
And
so,
which that, I guess, okay, cool, but yeah, at the end of the day, I'm just like, if it's to your point, if it's a top secret project, like and then all of a sudden, BT releases some mind scanning hardware that allows you to do what, like create music and mix, interstellar sounds together into, something coherent, something, unless there's some major
some BT Richie Houghton collab.
Exactly.
That changes the world.
Mixed on a speak and spell.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
B.
Yeah. So, unless there's something that just fundamentally changes things. And when I think of stuff like that, I mean, think back to like the Native Instruments gear, that came out a while back, your Z2s and all that and stuff like that, like things without, what we thought about, like, jog wheels and stuff like that. Like, there were a lot of things that Native Instruments was really trying to, push that I would have considered, forward thinking, in terms of trying to change how we think about we use that that equipment. Yeah, I mean, but to have that level of you got to have an embargo, you can't talk about anything.
Well,
like
and there's NDAs involved too,
right?
Which are legal documents,
right.
And then the one thing I found peculiar about this is that some of the people that the information was being released in advance of the embargo aren't people that normally review gear.
What?
So that to me was like, that's weird.
Yeah, very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I'm over here like, woe is me and my poor YouTube channel. Or I get it, but at the same time, it's like when you incentivize getting ahead of an embargo like that, then you're incentivizing getting bad information out ahead of time by people who don't have proper PR documents, aren't in contact with reps, don't have the zip file that comes with the PDF and the images and all the stuff that you get when you properly review gear like that. And so, people are going to say whatever they're going to say, and they could be wrong.
Mm-hmm. True.
And interestingly, so with the SC Live 4, the Denon standalone, day 2 they dropped the price by like $300.
What?
Day 2.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's some weird marketing decisions going on over there. I don't know if that was intentional or if that was a response to lashback about price and stuff like this, because people are complaining about the marketing and the leaks and all that. It was interesting.
Huh.
The new prices make more sense. I'm glad they did it, but anyhow,
I mean, anytime you can save somebody
Couple
$300.
$100,
yeah, and good products too. Just I'm not complaining about the products.
Yeah, I'm still a Denon user, so
yeah. You still like your Denons?
I do. There are times where I miss the Pioneer experience at home. But
in what way?
Familiarity.
Is it the players or the mix? Oh, it's the overall familiarity.
Yeah. Like
the muscle memory.
Yeah. Because I mean, remember I just changed to Denon. What was that, a few years ago? So for me, it was.
Right at pandemic.
Yeah, it was right before the Panini started.
Yeah. 1998. Using Pioneer gear. So, that's 20 years of muscle memory and just familiarity with a product. And it's not that, to me, Pioneer is, to me, it's still in my head as club standard.
Mm-hmm.
But, you can't argue with features, functionality, and price when it comes to Denon and the quality of stuff that they're putting out. So I still enjoy it. But yeah, and Record Box. The last time I opened up Record Box was right before it went to what's the current version?
I don't know, but that's the one that Jack, Mr. Shifter, he transitioned on day 1, and then he couldn't find anything.
right, and it's a weird, like, I didn't fully look into it, but like there's like some subscription model and stuff, all that stuff. Like so, I still struggle a little bit with the engine stuff, but overall,
one thing that I really like about the Denon stuff, or the engine stuff overall, is they're constantly releasing updates of significance.
Yep.
Not just bug fixes, but like, here's some goo.
It was funny. When you did a gear review, what was it? But you had my SC5000s. And so, like, I drop them off, and then I get them back, and they're like fully firmwared up, and I'm all like,
I don't know how to use these anymore.
I don't know what to do here. How do I use this?
I remember David telling me, he's like, he hasn't updated these since he bought them.
No, that's not true. I did update after I bought them
once.
I was like,
almost 3 years ago.
I don't think these players know they have Wi-Fi yet.
They didn't. Exactly, they didn't. But so that was the funny part, is I open it up and like now there's all this like Wi-Fi connectivity. I'm gonna have to like
log into your title account.
Do you want to log into your Dropbox? Do you want to log into? Yeah.
Yep. I'm gonna have to like go out there and find all the release notes and how to use all that fancy new stuff.
It's really cool because like that's the opposite of what some companies do.
Right.
And it's, they're incentivizing you to buy into the ecosystem rather than trying to coax you into upgrades, which gets really annoying. They're like, oh, you got this new killer feature, but not if you get this one. You got to go up to one that's $500 more, and you have these weird tiers where it's like, the lineups, make sense, and like your 5000s do everything that the Live 4 does. That it has the correct ports and connections for and stuff. But as far as the OS goes,
right,
they all do the same thing, and your 5,000s are like new players, which is pretty dope.
Yeah.
Going to take a quick break from our segment to talk a little bit about some industry news. Now, for all you Swifties out there, you're quite aware of the fiasco that took place trying to order tickets for Taylor Swift's upcoming world tour. As those ticket goers logged onto the Ticketmaster website, they were met with long queues and people waiting in excess of 8 hours in order to buy tickets, and some people were even just simply kicked out of queue for no particular reason. For several hours, some people were greeted with the message stating that there were insufficient numbers of tickets remaining. Not only did this upset her fan base, this also caught the attention of U.S. Representative David Cicilline of Rhode Island. He took to Twitter to say that Ticketmaster's exorbitant wait time and fee structure were unacceptable and that these were symptoms of a greater problem. Since their merger with Live Nation in 2010, Ticketmaster covers roughly 80% of all major U.S. music venues. Although artists control the ticket prices, Ticketmaster can add fees that are as much as 75% of that of the ticket price. David Healy, former frontman of the group O Positive, says, lack of competition is very harmful. And you have these exclusive arrangements where a venue has an exclusive deal with Ticketmaster. So if anybody wants to come in, they have to go through Ticketmaster. In 1994, the group Pearl Jam was very upset with the amount of fees that Ticketmaster was charging, so they decided to run a tour without using Ticketmaster or working at any of the venues that Ticketmaster had agreements with. In addition, they filed a complaint with the Department of Justice, which unfortunately went nowhere. As they hit the road in 1995, vowing to play at venues that were not controlled by Ticketmaster, it was a logistical nightmare, according to their tour manager, Kelly Curtis. They were challenged to find venues that had adequate acoustics and could stage large shows such as Pearl Jam in the 90s. They found themselves playing at, quote, weird places like ski resorts in Tahoe and fairgrounds in San Diego. And as far as getting venues in New York and Los Angeles, it was impossible. Although this attempt was valiant, it cost the band $2 million to put on that tour. Now, I've had personal experience dealing with the exorbitant fees that Ticketmaster puts on. About a year ago, I was going to try and take my daughter to go see the play Hamilton for a second time. She had seen it with my wife Melissa previously, and I didn't have the opportunity to go, so I thought it would be an awesome time for myself and my daughter to spend some time with something that she really enjoyed. When I got in the queue and finally got tickets, the ticket fees were the same exact cost as the tickets themselves. So it showed that cost my wife and my daughter $300 to go see in Cleveland about a year ago was going to cost me $500. I love my daughter, but I just wasn't going to do that because Ticketmaster is out of control. Pretty much based on what I read, unless the government gets involved, Ticketmaster is always going to have this stranglehold on ticketing in venues across the United States. Have you had any experiences with exorbitant ticket fees with Ticketmaster? If you have, go ahead and drop it in the comment section below. We'd like to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to the Performances page on YouTube as well. There you'll find all of our performances that were done at Passionate DJ Studios and some of those at some offsite locations here in Dayton, Ohio. Check them out. Really good time. Great production work that Dave put into all that stuff. All right. Now back to this week's episode.
I agree. And I think that we've mentioned it before in the past, but I think that's been one of the more frustrating things that I've ever thought when it came to Pioneer gear, especially once everything started going controllers and this, that, and the other. I get having different pricing tiers, but man, there's some,
you had to pay for all, like the stitch in time, I think was one, and then if you wanted to use like external like CDJs or whatever,
it was just all so weird.
Club pack,
Club pack, and
Pioneers is getting better. Serato's is maybe getting worse.
But Serato has that like that wickedly loyal following though.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're a Serato person, like you're never leaving. You
so,
are what you are.
It was so interesting to watch. It was almost like this progression where like Pioneer and Serato were married, and then like Pioneer was like, we really need to get on to our own thing over here, and then they just couldn't. It was like the girl that got away, and they no. So they're still like they now have in the budget tier for controllers. They have the DDJ Rev 1 and the FLX 4. And they're almost the same price. They're like $250, $300.
Mm-hmm.
But one is like geared more in the direction of I want to say turntablism, but what I mean by that is the mixer's laid out like Tony's mixer, the DJM S mixers, where it's got paddles,
right?
And it's laid out that way. Whereas the FLX line is more what we're used to, Pioneer Club standard,
Right.
where you have the assignable effects and the button to the bottom right, like a DJM mixer and stuff like that. So it's like now they're like, okay, we acknowledge that there's now this way of DJing and this way of DJing. So here's your 2 entry points.
Right.
And if you want to go the more record boxy way, get this one. If you want to go the more Serato-y way, go this way.
Gotcha.
But also ours does Serato too.
Right.
So it's weird, but that's what it is. So,
right.
yeah. And we were just talking about this before we started recording. It seems like we're getting more and more away from that controller-y way of doing effects, where you have the 3 or 4 knobs above each deck, and then buttons to engage them all, and all that.
Right.
Seems like we're kind of letting that go.
Well,
except for maybe like Native Instruments.
Yeah, but you know what? Honestly, I think that's I'm here for it, honestly, because
I don't mind.
I had
It's simpler. It makes more sense in the moment.
I had the DDJ-SZ, and Serato has its own built-in effects and all of that stuff. But the amount of that I used, why? When I've got the built-in DJM effects all right here, and then they had everything plus the air horn on the other side.
That's right. Yes,
but
that will be a product of its time.
Oh yeah.
That's going to age it.
Oh God. But I very rarely, if ever, used any of those assignable knobs up there for mapping them to Serato effects when I've got all this stuff right here. It just wasn't necessary.
I will say, and I think Tony probably agree, I do like it for Tractor. I like Tractors.
Really?
But that's the thing about Tractors.
We were
like
they want
that
conversation.
They want you to get in and get all nitty gritty and have all that chaining and control of all that, and the way they integrate it with their hardware, it makes sense.
Sure. Sure.
I do dig that.
Yeah, that's. I usually don't use effects because I grew up in the digital world on Tractor. So now when I have my DDJ 1000, I'm just like, I'll do some noise here and flanger there. But when I'm using Native Instrument stuff, I'm like all up in that top part, going between both decks and stuff like that. It feels more comfortable than to have to select a channel.
People love that stuff. So we were talking, we've been doing YouTube shorts because you got it. Right? So we've been drag kicking and streaming to vertical form video. So
I felt dirty the first time I turned my Sony sideways.
Yeah.
I was like, he's like, oh God.
I paid so much for this camera. Oh, that hurts. Oh my God. But what the most popular YouTube short that I've put out so far it's a repurposed video, like most of them are, and it's when I was demoing the Zone 96, and then I hooked up like guitar pedal to it. And I looped Machine into it, and I just had a bunch of loop in one of your players, Denon players, and I just had a bunch of loops going, and then I just took that and did like a high pass filter and some delay shit with it was an Eventide micro pitch controller or pedal, and it's blown up. It's got like, I don't know, it's probably approaching 15,000 views now, and it just keeps going. And people are commenting on it and subscribing to the channel and stuff. And I'm like, apparently I need to show more of, because to me, I was like, this is going to sound cool. It'll, for the purposes of the review video, that what I was demonstrating was send return.
Okay.
Hey, you send out here, goes to the pedal, comes back in. Here's what that sounds like.
Right.
And apparently people loved hearing that. So it's like, oh, that's a clue. I guess we'll post more stuff like that. So,
right.
Yeah, just like a real crowd, even if they have a direct overhead shot and they can see what you're doing, they still love it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Whatever works.
Oh, yeah.
Although artists aren't... Hi, Ribeye.